My mother's paternal grandmother, lady with white hair and a short lady, and she used to tell us that we are not Navajo. You kids are not Navajo. You're really Apache. Nashkale, Diné, you're Mescalero Apache, she would tell us. And then she would relate how a long time ago, a bunch of Navajo warriors got together in the spring. They were itching from the long winter, you know, to get out and do something. And so they planned to go down south on their horses and raid the Pueblos down there, the Mexicans, and maybe some whites living down south, and some Indians down there. And so they left on horseback and were gone for a long, long time. But one day people saw a cloud of dust rise way over here on the east side, and they knew that the warriors were coming back. And sure enough, there was a lot of yelling and whooping and horses running, bunch of animals being herded. And then one man at the back hat was leading a horse, and on that horse sat an Indian woman. She had her hands tied behind her back, and so she was riding that horse like that all that time. Her hair was just bushy, covered with debris, and he came up to the front of the hogan and pushed her off. Take her somewhere, tie her up, you know, and someone grabbed the rope and dragged her to this stump. They dragged her there and tied her up, but the whole time she was shouting obscenities at them. They didn't know what she was saying, but they would just untie her to feed her. Someone would go over there and take her something and she would eat. And guess at some point she hid a knife under her skirt. When they came to feed her again, she jumped on that poor unsuspecting man, and but they were able to subdue her. It was getting colder, and so they untied her and let her go about camp, maybe picking firewood or whatever. But she was starting to, I guess, get used to the place there and began to help the people. And then one of the families there would ask her to come into their hogan and tell her to sleep over there by the doorway. And someone would throw a blanket at her to cover herself with from the cold winter nights, you know. One of the men that went to capture her, or that one of her captors, wanted to marry her. And so a meeting was held very much like this with people sitting around. And I guess he stated his case, I want her for my wife. And then people said, well, we're going to have to talk about that. As Navajos, you know, we're related to other clans. And so what clan is going to be related to her? She's Apache. Who's going to be related to her? And one man way in the back stood up. I'll be her relative. My clan will be her relative, and that's Dishcheetni. It's called Dishcheetni. But it was agreed, okay, all the relatives of that particular clan, Dishcheetni, now would be related to her. So where she didn't have anybody, now she had a bunch of relatives. She is my, I don't know how many times great grandmother. But that is how we are Nashkal Diné. Nashkal meaning Mescalero Apache. Diné is people from there.
benashni heyanai, ne yawashi chekende bike yahe benashni, benashni heyanai, ne yashitlitle jese ahe benashni, benashni, benashni heyanai, ne yashitlitle jese ahe benashni, benashni, benashni heyanai, ne yawashi chekende bike